It's always my favourite time of the year when Supanova comes back to Perth, and we've got a very special guest joining us very early, Lindsay Wagner. Thank you so much for your time, and welcome to our beautiful city as well.
Thank you.
So you're ready to obviously meet a lot of fans during this weekend as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I hope so. And come all this way to just have this conversation.
Exactly.
Well, anything wrong with that?
I was hoping anyway. So again, I've been a long time fan. I watched the show as a kid. Again, when did you realise when you were actually doing the Bionic Woman years ago, when it was going to have such an impact on all generations?
Well, I don't know that we really knew all generations at that point. However, the time that it really clicked to me, the magnitude of what we were doing, was literally like 11:30 at night in a grocery store, because I couldn't go shopping during the day because people would kind of impede my progress. God bless you all. But and I was shopping and I reached for something and I heard somebody say, "Lindsay, stop that." And my name was very uncommon, especially in the U.S. It was a little more in Western Europe, but in the U.S. it just didn't exist. And I turned and thought, what am I doing? And I saw a mother and a little girl, and the little girl's name was Lindsay. And I just walked down towards them, and she said, "Oh my gosh, he named my daughter after you." And I said, "Well, that's what I was wondering. I had to ask." And I went, "That's crazy, you know? If I'd had a common name, it would never have come into my mind, but now it's a common name."
It is. So yeah, you're the blueprint.
Yeah.
Well, again, with the Bionic Woman, you know, and obviously the $6 Million Man, you had a lot of kids. I was one of them, basically always doing the fast slow motion. Well, my kids.
Well, not my kid. My kids. Years later.
Were they still doing the jump and the slow motion?
No, I didn't show them the show until, I think my oldest was 12, my youngest was maybe 8, because it's one thing for a child to see a fantasy with like real humans in it, as opposed to a cartoon. But I think when it's your own kids, until they're old enough to process that they're watching their mother and she's in peril, it's not like it was a comedy, right? And so I didn't want them to watch their mother being in peril, not knowing how that would affect them.
Yeah.
And so when they got older, by the time they got older, the world had already seen Arnold Schwarzenegger in the, what was it called?
The 80s. The commando styles.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. And all this high-tech special effects, which we didn't have. And at that point,
you were ahead of its time.
I showed it to them. I know we were then, but we didn't have anything that these kids grew up on.
Yeah.
And then watching that. And so they looked at my show and they went, "Really? That was cutting edge?" I was like, yeah.
You must have been overwhelmed though, because your character originally wasn't supposed to make it, and then obviously the fans just went, they fell in love with you, and then we got to bring her back, and then obviously the series came afterwards, and it just all took off from there. You must have been overwhelmed with the reaction you received from all the fans.
It was just amazing. I mean, it was incredible just watching that and feeling ever grateful to all of you and you and all of you who grew up on this, who just loved it and kept saying more and more and more, because we made my career together. I didn't make it by myself. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you're also well known for, obviously, in the later generations for Warehouse 13 and other shows like that. But tell us, there's much more to you than just the Bionic Woman and the TV shows. You've done so much outside of that, motivational speaker, author. Tell us about, obviously, that experience outside of the show.
Well, just things that I found in my life that helped me so much with old experiences that affect our present day making today because of old wounds, if you will. Growing up, we've all got them one way or another, some of us a lot more than others. And the people that I have found to help me in my life, one of the concepts that really turned my head around to be able to address things when they would happen in present day was that our experience of any life circumstance is a function of our perception of that. It's not that thing. When you called me an idiot, I didn't hurt because you called me an idiot. I hurt because some part of me in the past had been called that when it really did hurt me, and it's stuck in there. And now that gets reverberated when it's happening out here, because it would be an example of that is that if somebody that you just don't even know calls you an idiot, it's like, go away, you weirdo, right?
Gotta brush it off.
But
Yeah.
So therefore, it doesn't come from that function, that action. It comes from my response to it through my perception. And that's what I'd like to teach people, because that's what helped change my life once I got
That's
it.
inspirational as well. So now we thank you for that. I just want to leave you with an amazing story, obviously from 1979, when you were supposed to hop on a flight and something inside you basically said, I don't want to get on this flight. That's an amazing story.
It's just, I've always believed in listening to your gut instinct. We have instincts, we have intuition. We all have the capacity for that. We're just not taught, honestly, in our Western culture to listen to that. And so I just say, listen, and follow it. A lot of times, and I did then, and I was doing it prior to that, so it wasn't odd for me. Just remember that you can't always figure out why or what it is. That doesn't mean it's wrong. We're taught in our culture to listen to our brain, our left brain, our logical, our linear, our, all of that. But the other part of us, which is very much real and very much human, very human, is to that instinct that goes, that's not good for me. Because our energy is picking up things that our brain isn't registering every moment. And that's where that this is good for me, this is not good for me comes from.
No, that's fantastic. Well, again, I think there's a line forming to see the great Lindsay Wagner. So we appreciate your time. Again, enjoy your time in Perth, and I'm sure I'll see you across the weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.